I sat in the den reading the evening newspaper and watching after our two daughters while my wife did after dinner clean up in the kitchen. It was her turn tonight as we took turns at many household chores. Like most working couples, we shared the responsibilities of living as befitted our individual aptitudes. I could handle laundry, vacuuming, dusting, painting, babysitting, bed making, dishwashing and home maintenance. She handled many of the same plus cooking. She liked to cook and I didn't. I liked to cut the grass and maintain the house and cars, and she didn't like to do it. She was a CPA and looked after our finances. I was an insurance agent working from a home office and looked after our children. This really has nothing to do with this story, except, I hope, to show that I was a thoughtful husband ready to work with my wife as a partner, as well as lover and friend. An article in the paper caught my eye regarding divorce and their causes. I wasn't really surprised to note that although most divorces were granted on the basis of irreconcilable differences, that the real basis for many was cheating by one partner or the other. More men cheated than women. I thought back to my divorce from my first wife, 5 years previously. That hadn't been the case then, as I had caught her cheating on me. Looking back, I remembered the day I discovered the first clue of her adultery. The day was a Friday and we were supposed to go out with friend to dinner. I had showered and dressed and was sitting in the living room waiting for her when she called downstairs. "John, will look in my purse for my lipstick. It's on the kitchen table." Walking to the kitchen, I opened her purse and tried to find the lipstick by groping around inside to feel something cylindrical. Not feeling what I was looking for, I dumped the purse out on the table, and there it was, a condom in its wrapper. It was an extra large size. Now, since I had had a vasectomy 2 years ago after our youngest daughter was born, it seemed very strange to find it there, and I immediately became suspicious. About that time she hollered down to see if I'd found her lipstick, and with a shaking hand I found it and tried to appear normal when I took it upstairs to give it to her. When she saw me, she looked at me funny as I handed it to her. "Are you feeling alright, darling? You look awfully pale. I may be coming down with something. We don't have to go out if you don't feel well. I'm sure the Johnsons wouldn't mind if we called it off. Maybe we should cancel. I wouldn't be much fun feeling like this." I didn't think I could handle meeting other people right now. It was imperative that I sit down by myself and think this out. What was I going to do to confirm my suspicions? I turned and went back to the kitchen where I quickly returned all the objects, including the condom, back into her purse. Hesitating a moment with the condom, I thought about whether it might have fallen from the open side pocket in her purse and decided that that was probably where it came from, as Jane was a very organized person and wouldn't drop something she might have to find in a hurry into the bottom of her purse. I hoped I was right, as I didn't want to let her know I was suspicious, as she might start covering her tracks if she were guilty. Slipping it into the side pocket, I closed the purse and left it on the table, then went out to my office in the garage annex. We had built the annex onto the back of the garage when we built the house, so I could conduct my business from there. I not only did my business from here, but I was also a stay-at-home dad and primary caregiver to our two daughters, Beth 5 and Ann 2. Sitting at my desk, I sat and stared at the wall in front of me, trying to get my thoughts in order. What the hell was going on? Is the discovery of one condom the catalyst to get hyper and initiate something that can't be rectified? After some time, I realized I would need to talk with a lawyer and determine my options. Some of my clients were lawyers, and one, Adele Simpson, was a hard-nosed divorce lawyer. It seemed like a good place to start on Monday. I'd just have to survive the weekend without alerting Jane. About the time I made that decision, the door to my office opened and Jane stuck her head inside. "What are you doing out here? You should go to bed if you aren't feeling well. By the way, I called and cancelled the sitter and cancelled with the Johnsons." I thought, how solicitous of her that she may be carrying on behind my back, but still acting the loving wife. I brushed these thoughts aside and determined that if she could act the good wife, I could act the good husband. "Thanks for your concern, sweetheart. I just wanted to come out here for a minute to check something. I'll be along in a minute." She left and I sat there for a few minutes and then went back into the house. The weekend dragged on and I tried to keep my emotions under control. I played my illness up a bit so she wouldn't be expecting me to initiate sex between us. I would try to prolong avoidance as long as I could. Monday morning, I called Adele and made an appointment for early afternoon. After giving the kids their lunch, I took them over to my parents and went for my appointment with Adele. Telling her the reason for my suspicions didn't surprise her, or that I was concerned after the discovery of a single condom. She told me that it may be an innocent prank by one of her friends, but the discovery of an affair had been determined in other instances by less evidence, and if I'd confronted Jane with it, she just might have shut down the affair till I'd cooled down. She recommended that I get a licensed and bonded PI to monitor her activities for a week. I told her that if there was an ongoing affair, it must be taking place during the day while she was away at work as she was home most evenings. She asked me about any changes that I might have observed in her behavior, or had there been any unexplained expenditures. I told her that there might have been a slight change in her attitude toward me in the last couple months, but I couldn't say that there was any change in our finances as she looked after those things. Also, Jane had her own checking account and credit cards that I never saw. Our other accounts were in both our names. She asked about her change in attitude, and I thought for a minute and said it seemed to be a little loss of respect for me and a shorter fuse to anger. Our sex life may have fallen off too, but I'd attributed that to overwork. Adele just nodded and said that if I didn't mind she'd arranged to have a pie, she'd had good experiences with Monitor Jane for the rest of the week at work. I agreed and I gave her particulars on where Jane worked and the work hours she normally kept at the company where she worked. She asked me to email a recent picture of Jane too. Before leaving she asked me to think about what I might want to do if she were having an affair. To think about the children and the effect on them of a divorce. I told her it was in my mind and I would have to determine the extent of the affair, whether she loved him and other variables before I could make a decision. The rest of the week I just continued my routine, except it was hard to act normally around my wife. Maybe she sensed something was wrong. On Thursday evening she asked if anything was wrong, and I tried to explain it away as a touch of flu I couldn't shake. She seemed to believe me and sympathized with me. I couldn't tell whether it was acting or she was truly concerned. The following Monday morning I received a call from Adele asking me to come in for a meeting with the PI. Taking the kids over to my parents, I went to Adele's office and met with PI. His name was Jack Pagano, an ex-cop who had branched out into his own business. Jack had a large manila envelope which he opened and proceeded to remove photographs. I knew it was bad news right away as I doubted if he would have taken pictures of anything innocuous. He told Adele and myself that on Tuesday and Thursday, he had followed Jane and Bob Simpson at lunchtime from the building where they both worked to a cheap motel where they took a room, spent an hour and then returned to work. I had met Bob a couple of times at her Christmas parties and had been impressed by his large athletic body and personal charm. He was probably 5 years younger than Jane, and I could see why she had fallen for him. He worked with her in the same finance group. I could just nod my head at what he told me. Adele said, "I think this supports your suspicions, John. She is having a deliberate affair. Now, have you thought about what you want to do?" I have given this some thought the past week, and even though I believe there will be some impact on our children, I would like to proceed with a divorce. What are my chances of getting custody of them? Since you're the primary caregiver for the children, I think your chances of gaining custody are good. The judge will make a decision based on what's best for them, and I think since you work at home, you are there to meet their needs on a 24-hour basis. I suppose you would like to proceed with a divorce based on irreconcilable differences. That is the way these things are usually handled. What would be involved on using adultery as the basis? That gets terribly messy and could be very expensive. We only have pictures of them going into and out of a motel room, which is pretty weak. Let me ask you again though. Do you really want a divorce or would you consider marital counseling? I would strongly recommend counseling. I know you're probably mad, but there will still be an impact on your children and you should confront her and see if she wants to continue your marriage or if she loves him. You have to know. I sat and thought a while then said, "Alright, I'll confront her and see what she wants to do." That's good, John. I think that's the best way. After leaving Adele's office I went home, leaving the children at my folks for the night as I didn't want them around when we had our confrontation. Late in the afternoon I ordered a pizza to be delivered about the time Jane usually got home. The actual delivery coincided with Jane's arrival. After paying the delivery man I took a deep breath and turned to greet Jane as she came through the door from the garage. "Pizza tonight, John? What's the occasion?" I thought we needed a little time to ourselves. "Where are the kids?" "They're over at my folks. I asked them to keep them for the night." "What are you planning for tonight? Something for the bedroom?" she asked as she reached up to kiss me, but I turned my head so she kissed my cheek. She looked at me kind of funny. What's going on, John? We need to talk, Jane, but I'd like to eat first if you don't mind. She suddenly looked pale and withdrawn as she stared at me. All right, John. We ate in silence and I noticed she wouldn't look me in the eyes. When we finished, I took her hand and we went into the den. She sat on the couch and indicated she wanted me to sit beside her, but I took a seat facing her. I don't know how to start this, but to just come out and ask, are you cheating on me? Why do you ask that, John? Just answer the question. No, I've never cheated on you, John. You're sitting there and telling me that the hour you spend with Bob Simpson on Tuesday and Thursday in a cheap motel was so you can get in a game of canasta. She suddenly sobbed and turned away. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Are you sorry you were caught? No, I didn't want to hurt you. That's a lot of trash. Did you think you could do it forever and not get caught? Eventually I was going to find out. Do you love him? He's married too and has a baby and another on the way. What about his wife and his family? Are you sorry you hurt them too? Because I'm certainly going to tell them. Oh God, no. Please no. Don't do that. I don't love him. It was just sex. Don't destroy his family. Why should he destroy our marriage and get away scot-free? If you want a divorce, I'll give you one, but be aware you will not get custody of Beth or Anne. I will fight you tooth and nail on that one. No. So what's it going to be? Do you want to go into counseling and try to save this marriage, or do you want to run off to your lover? Counseling. Please, I need help. We need help. I'll go anytime, anywhere you want. I don't want to give up you or my babies. What about your lover? Are you going to continue to see him? No, it's over. Why did you start your affair? Wasn't I providing you with everything you needed? You were fine, John. It was me, I wanted more and I don't know why. It may be better, Jane, if we forego the counseling until a psychiatrist can determine why you feel you need more than what our marriage can provide. Once we know that, we can enter counseling to find out how to cope with it. Maybe you're right. I don't know what to do. She wailed. How am I going to trust you in the future? Do you know it cost $2,000 from our savings to just monitor you for 1 week and find out what you were doing? I'm so sorry, John. I just didn't think about any consequences. It seemed so exciting that it just got into me and I couldn't stop. I will try to get the name of a psychiatrist and set you up with an appointment as soon as possible. In the meantime, I want you to move your things into the guest room until I figure I can sleep with you again. All right, John. I guess I deserve that. I suppose it would be meaningless to tell I love you, but I will abide by your wishes. She said as she stood up and went to our bedroom. When she left, I looked up Bob Simpson's phone number and placed a call to his home. He answered the phone. May I speak with Mrs. Simpson, please? I asked. May I say who's calling? This is John Martin calling. He immediately slammed the phone down and I redialed. It rang until the answering machine picked it up. This is John Martin calling to talk with Jessica Simpson. I have an urgent message for her about her husband. My phone number is 555-1234. I waited 5 minutes and then called and left the same message on the phone again. I did this for an hour and then waited half an hour before starting again. Finally, he responded in a voice filled with rage. I'm going to call the telephone company and police unless you stop this harassment. I'm going to talk to your wife one way or another, Mr. Simpson. You might try to confess to her, because when I sue you for interfering in my marriage, it's going to be hard to keep it from her. Please don't do this. She's expecting any day now and this would upset her greatly. You should have thought about that before you started the affair with my wife. If you think you're just going to walk free after ruining my marriage, you better come up with a new thought. Your wife was the one that kept chasing me. I really didn't want to do it, but she persisted. Can't we wait to tell my wife until after she delivers? Please? I suddenly felt compassion for his wife. Alright, asshole. I'm going to give you until after she has the baby. But you'd better think about confessing before I tell her, and I'm certainly going to make sure she knows what a bastard you are. Thank you. He sobbed as he hung up. I felt better now that the bastard was suffering. I went back to find my wife. She had moved into the guest room and was curled up on the bed in a fetal position, asleep. I went back to my room and tried to sleep too. It bothered me what he'd told me that she had chased him. I don't know whether he was lying or not, but it gave me a sense of foreboding. The next few weeks were quiet around the house. The kids reacted to Jane and my discomfort with one another and became more withdrawn and less interactive. She quit her job and started to see a psychiatrist, and I attended a session occasionally at the doctor's request in order to help discover the cause of her problem, but she didn't seem to want to acknowledge why she did what she did. I tried being more loving and supportive at home, and after several weeks invited her back to our bed. She seemed to respond positively to that, and though our first attempt at sex was awkward, we eventually became intimate again. In order to bring more variety into our sex life, I brought home porno DVDs to watch and try to imitate wherever we could. It was fun, but I didn't think she achieved much excitement or satisfaction from it. I was beginning to wonder if I could ever trust her again. She had found a new job, and I instigated steps to check on her whereabouts while she was working. I would call at odd times on her office phone while she was at lunch and during the day. If she didn't answer, I would request a detailed reason for her lack of response, which I could confirm. If she was late getting home from work, I demanded the same satisfaction. She didn't like my constant monitoring, but knew until my trust was restored, she'd have to put up with it. A few weeks after Bob Simpson's wife had her baby, I caught her at home while he was working, and after identifying myself, asked her if her husband had ever mentioned my wife. She admitted that he had, and they were in counseling for their problem. I was satisfied with the outcome, as I didn't want to carry a hate forever. 6 months after our confrontation, I didn't feel that Jane was achieving the progress I had hoped for. Even the psychiatrist expressed concern in a private conversation I had with her. I had a trip planned to attend a week-long conference in another city coming up, which I did annually, and I thought that this might be a test for Jane to see how she would act while I was gone. I called Adele and asked her to contact the PI, Jack Pagano, for a job. If Jane were to fail this test, I would want Adele in at the beginning. She had Jack come to the house while Jane was working, and I explained that I would be out of town the following week, and I wanted the house instrumented for video and audio detection devices to determine what happened at home while I was gone. In order to catch possible activities away from home, I also wanted her under visual surveillance for those times she wasn't at home also. This was going to be expensive, but I felt it had to be done to begin to restore some trust in our marriage. He came over the next day to install and check out the necessary devices while she was at work. He showed me where and how to turn the system on when I left for my conference. After turning on the detection system, I left home on Sunday evening to be in attendance for the opening ceremonies on Monday morning. When I arrived at the hotel, I called home to let them know I arrived safely. She was just putting the kids to bed when I called, so I had a chance to talk with them, both kids also. Everything seemed normal. During the week, I maintained my surveillance calls to her office during the day and now in the evenings. I also called my folks and hoped that she found I was calling them also. Then if she brought the kids over to them to watch in the evenings, I would know about it and she would have to provide a reason. She also couldn't hire a babysitter for the same reason. The most likely place she could resume her affair would be at home. During the week, my calls were all answered, and I felt some relief, but the detection devices and the PI report on surveillance would provide the final story when I got home. The following Friday afternoon, I arrived home while she was at work, and the kids were at my parents'. Without touching the detection system, I called Jack to alert him that I was home. He hurried over and shut down the system and took the recordings back to his office from the sealed box he had left the recorders in. He asked me to come to Adele's office Monday, and we would review the results of the week-long surveillance. On Monday morning, I headed for Adele's office after dropping the kids at my parents'. As I drove, I determined that whatever the outcome of this was, I owed my parents big time for their help during this time, albeit only as dependable babysitters. They were waiting for me as I arrived, and Jack played the DVD for us. He told us up front that there was a lot of material on them that was innocent, so he was cutting to the parts we would want to see. I suddenly knew that this would probably not be good. The scenes we watched related to Wednesday evening as determined by the date and time shown on the video. Jane entered our bedroom followed by Bob Simpson. They undressed almost in a panic and got on the bed without speaking. When I saw Bob's thing, I suddenly realized why she wanted him. It was enormous when it got hard. It wasn't that it was that long, but it was especially large in its diameter. Without foreplay she got on her back on the bed and held out her arms to him. I noticed they weren't even waiting for him to put on a condom. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't want to hurt my wife again, he said as he got on the bed. Suddenly, the wide-angle lens showed a movement at the open door to the bedroom. Beth was standing there watching them. "Oh God," I moaned. "No, no." It was a few minutes before Jane recovered from her orgasm to see Beth. "Beth baby. Why are you up?" she asked as she jumped up and went to Beth naked and with cum running down her legs. Bob was still on the bed naked. "I heard you yelling mama." "Sweetie. Let's go back to bed," Jane said as she disappeared with Beth out the door and down the hall. A few minutes later she was back and on her hands and knees sucking on Bob's mighty sword. "Okay, that's all I need to see now," Adele proclaimed. "What do you want to do, John? You can go after her for adultery with these pictures and there will be no question about your getting custody if you want a divorce. Go for it," I told her. I was enraged that she would show so little love and respect for me, that she would have sex with someone else in our bed and had demeaned and cuckolded me. "I'll have the papers filed by noon, see the judge this afternoon to get a temporary restraining order on her to stay away from your home and kids, and I'll have her served at work this afternoon. Finally, I'll serve her boyfriend for alienation of affection today. This is going to be a busy day that I'm going to enjoy very much. What should I be doing in the meantime? You can cancel all your mutual credit cards, change your insurance beneficiaries, change your will, and close mutual checking, savings and stock accounts. Then get a locksmith to change your locks and fix your garage door opener so she can't open it. Have her call me to get approval to remove her clothes and other personal items. That should keep you busy for the rest of the day. When she or her lawyer try to contact you, refer them to me. In no way meet or talk with them without me being there. Do you understand?" "Yes, thank you. Would you keep me informed as to how things are progressing today? Please call me on my cell." "I'll do that." I left and headed to our bank. I spent the rest of the day changing our finances and getting a locksmith to our house. I was on my way to pick up the kids and then meet the locksmith when I received a call from Adele. "You'd better prepare for some responses. The server is on his way. The judge took one look at that scene in your bedroom and it was a piece of cake after that. Have a nice day. Thanks, Adele." It was about 45 minutes later that I got the panic phone call from Jane, who sounded distraught. "John, why are you divorcing me? I thought we were alright now." "You can't do what you did last Wednesday night, Jane, and expect our marriage to continue. Please don't call me again. Have your lawyer contact mine from now on. Goodbye." Oh my God. I heard her cry as I broke the connection. Epilogue. It's been 3 years since the divorce. I understand she moved away back to her hometown to be near her family. She has supervised visitation rights twice a year with the kids when she comes at Christmas holidays and over the 4th of July to spend a day with them at my folks'. I've refused to see her or talk with her since the day she was served. Bob Simpson's wife divorced him and took him to the cleaners. I'm remarried again now. I started going to church with the kids and met a woman there my age who was divorced also. She couldn't give her first husband kids and he wanted some, so they split. She loved kids and loves mine very much. We fell in love and got married. It was as though a prayer was answered. We're great in bed together and she's nice and tight, so I'm not worried she'd be looking for something bigger. Been there, done that.